Welcome to the deep dive. We are so glad you were here with us today because we are starting with a question that honestly just stopped me in my tracks when I first read it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Why do some people earning like $50,000 a year eventually become millionaires while other people making $500,000 a year end up completely broke?
Right. I mean, it is the ultimate financial paradox.
Exactly.
Because on paper, that simply should not happen. You know, the mathematical formulas we use to calculate compound interest and wealth accumulation, they basically suggest the person making $500,000 should win every single time.
But they don't always win.
No, they don't.
The math totally fails to account for the human element. So today, we are unpacking a roadmap based on Morgan Housel's The Psychology of Money. And okay, let's unpack this, because this isn't a deep dive about stock tips or evaluating PE ratios or figuring out which index fund to buy this week.
Right, we're not doing that.
No. We are looking at a fundamental shift in how you think about wealth, basically prioritizing human behavior over basic arithmetic.
What's fascinating here is that we have this collective blind spot when it comes to money. Like, we treat it like physics.
Oh, totally. Like it's an exact science.
Right. We think it's this hard science driven by strict rules and historical data and pure intellect. But the core premise we are exploring today is that doing well with money has incredibly little to do with how smart you are.
Yeah.
And it has absolutely everything to do with how you behave.
Which is wild because behavior is messy.
Extremely messy.
It's wildly unpredictable, you know?
Yeah.
So before we even talk about the tactical steps of building wealth, we have to look at the invisible psychological forces that are driving our financial choices in the first place.
Yeah, that foundational stuff.
Right, and the source material establishes this massive concept right out of the gate, which is nobody is crazy.
That's such a crucial point. Every single person makes money decisions based on their own personal, highly unique experiences of how the world works. Financial behavior just isn't universal. I mean, think about the mechanical reality of this. If you came of age during a period of massive double-digit inflation, your fundamental gut-level view of money is going to be permanently altered.
Oh, sure. Compared to someone who started investing during a massive decade-long bull market.
Exactly. The person who watched their parents lose their home in a recession perceives risk entirely differently than the person whose family, made a fortune flipping real estate.
It's like judging someone else's financial decisions is basically like judging their taste in food without knowing what they were forced to eat growing up.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Right, like if you grew up only eating boiled cabbage because that is literally all your family could afford, your relationship with an all-you-can-eat buffet is going to look very different from someone who grew up with a personal chef.
Yeah, you'd be overwhelmed, or you'd hoard it.
Exactly. We are all dealing with our own historical biases. So you shouldn't judge other people's financial choices too quickly because you just haven't lived their financial history.
And that connects directly to two other external realities that shape our outcomes, which are luck and risk.
Ah, yeah, luck and risk.
Because we love to tell ourselves this very neat, clean narrative that success is entirely earned through, relentless hard work and brilliance.
Like the whole pull yourself up by your bootstraps thing.
Right. And on the flip side, we tell ourselves that failure is always deserved because of laziness or just sheer stupidity.
Which isn't true.
Not at all. The reality is that luck and risk exist side by side. They're literally two sides of the exact same coin.
Because the world is just too complex.
Exactly. The mechanism here is simple. You are one person out of billions, operating in a profoundly complex global economy. You cannot control every variable.
Yeah.
So sometimes you do everything right, you follow the perfect spreadsheet, and risk still catches up with you. And on the flip side, sometimes you make a reckless, foolish bet and pure luck just bails you out.
But wait, so if luck plays such a massive, uncontrollable role, and our personal experiences are entirely biased, and we can't replicate someone else's luck, doesn't this whole thing become incredibly deterministic?
I could see how you'd get there.
Like, why shouldn't we just throw our hands up, ignore financial planning entirely, and just hope for a winning lottery ticket?
Well, it is tempting to look at the randomness of the world and adopt a totally nihilistic view of money. But the biggest trap in wealth building isn't actually bad luck.
Oh.
It is greed.
Greed?
Yeah. The source material details this beautifully when exploring the concept of never enough. I mean, there are literal billionaires, people who have achieved the absolute pinnacle of financial success, who have lost everything.
Wow.
And it wasn't because of a random black swan market crash that they couldn't control. It was because they didn't know when enough was enough.
They risked things they had and desperately needed in order to get things they didn't have and didn't actually need at all.
Exactly. They just kept moving the goalpost. The psychology of social comparison is completely relentless.
Yeah, it never stops.
Right, if you have $10 million, you feel rich until you stand next to someone with $100 million. And if you have $100 million, you feel inadequate next to a billionaire.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. Greed destroys far more wealth than bad investments or bad luck ever could, because it forces you to take on existential risk. Knowing your personal definition of enough is really the only actual shield you have against that kind of self-destruction.
So, if greed and a lack of an enough point are the primary destroyers of wealth, the next logical step for us is exploring what actually sustains it over time.
Right, the mechanics.
Yeah, we have to look at the actual mechanics of growth, which really revolves around compounding.
Oh, compounding. It is arguably the most powerful and yet most consistently misunderstood force in finance.
Because our brains just aren't wired to understand exponential growth, are they?
No, not at all.
We think linearly, like if I add n plus 1, I get 2. But the reality of compounding builds on itself so dramatically that the numbers just stop making intuitive sense.
It really looks like magic after a while.
Right. And the sources point out that Warren Buffett isn't one of the richest people in the world just because he's incredibly smart or like a brilliant stock picker.
Although he is those things.
He is those things. But his real secret is time. He started investing when he was a literal child. The vast majority of his net worth came after his 65th birthday.
Which is crazy to think about.
It's wild. Small gains multiplying over decades create absolute mountains of wealth.
And that highlights a vital distinction in the psychology of money. There is a profound mechanical difference between getting wealthy and staying wealthy.
Oh, okay. Let's dig into that.
Well, making money is one distinct skill. It requires risk-taking, boundless optimism, and, putting yourself out there.
Hustle, basically.
Right, but keeping it is an entirely different skill. Keeping money requires humility. It requires a healthy dose of fear, honestly.
Fear.
Yeah, it requires the acceptance that what you've made can be taken away from you in an instant.
So survival is the real name of the game.
Survival and consistency will always beat sheer brilliance. I mean, imagine two investors. Okay. One is a certified genius who makes massive risky bets and blows up their portfolio every 5 years. The other is an aggressively average investor who just survives, never has a catastrophic loss, and stays in the market for 40 years.
The average investor wins, right?
Every single time. Compounding only works if you give it decades to grow, which means your primary objective is simply not getting wiped out.
But to stay in the game for decades, you have to actually have capital to invest. So we have to look at the most fundamental mechanic of all, which is saving.
Yes, the foundation.
And I love how the sources frame this because it completely demystifies wealth. Saving doesn't require a massive income.
No, it doesn't.
It's not about forcing yourself into a job making $500,000 a year. It's about the discipline of managing the gap between what you earn and what you spend.
Your savings rate is one of the only financial variables that is entirely within your control.
Which is comforting, honestly.
It really is. You cannot control the stock market's returns, you cannot dictate national interest rates, and you definitely cannot predict recessions. But you can control your own humility and your own desires.
Yeah.
If you can learn to be genuinely happy with less, you instantly create a gap between your income and your ego. And that gap is the exact location where wealth is born.
I love that, the gap between your income and your ego. But doing that in practice is incredibly difficult because of human nature.
Absolutely.
People try to create these ultra-strict, mathematically perfect budgets to maximize that gap, and then they just completely fail.
Because they're too rigid.
Right. Financial strategies are exactly like diets. The quote-unquote perfect, most rational mathematical plan might tell you to eat nothing but raw broccoli and boiled chicken for an entire year.
Sounds miserable.
It is. That plan is mathematically flawless for weight loss, but it is completely useless if you abandon it after 4 days because you are utterly miserable.
And that is the essence of why being reasonable is far more important than being strictly rational. A spreadsheet basically assumes you are an emotionless robot.
Which you're not. So you must choose financial decisions you can actually stick with emotionally.
Right.
Like if paying off a low-interest mortgage helps you sleep soundly at night, even if a perfectly rational spreadsheet says you should invest that money in the market for a higher historical return, you pay off the mortgage.
Exactly. Because you'll actually sleep.
Yes. Sustainable habits beat perfect mathematical strategies every single time. You have to actually stick with the plan for decades to let compounding work, and you won't stick with the plan that makes you miserable.
But here's the problem. If the mechanics of keeping money rely heavily on quiet discipline, on consistent saving, on being reasonable rather than, maximizing every single penny for public display,
Right, yeah.
we run into a massive cultural friction.
Right, because that's not what we see on social media.
No. Those mechanics completely contradict how modern society visibly displays wealth. We are surrounded by these core illusions about what it actually means to be rich.
And here's where it gets really interesting. The man in the car paradox.
Oh, this is one of my favorite concepts.
It's so good. Okay, imagine you were walking down the street and a $500,000 bright red Ferrari pulls up to the stoplight.
Nice car.
Right? You stop, you stare, you admire the car. The paradox is that you are almost certainly not admiring the driver. You are imagining yourself in the driver's seat.
Yep.
You are thinking, if I had that car, people would admire me.
But they wouldn't admire you. They would be too busy imagining themselves in the car, just like you did.
Exactly. Chasing status and buying highly visible, expensive things to impress other people is a completely losing game. Nobody is as impressed with your stuff as you are.
Never.
You think you are buying respect, but you are literally just becoming a prop in someone else's daydream.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it reveals a massive societal misconception about what wealth actually is. Because expensive things, the supercars, the luxury watches, the massive mansions, those are highly visible.
Everyone sees them.
Right. But true wealth is entirely invisible.
Invisible.
Yeah, wealth is the money you haven't spent. It's the diversified investments quietly compounding in a brokerage account you rarely check.
Right.
It's the emergency savings. It's the total financial security of having zero toxic debt.
Yeah.
When you see someone driving a $100,000 car, the only absolute data point you have about their wealth is that they have $100,000 less than they did before they bought the car.
Or even worse, they are now $100,000 in debt to a bank.
Exactly.
So wealth is what you don't see. That is such a profound shift in perspective. But if true wealth isn't the Ferrari or the designer clothes, then what is the actual point? Like, what are we trying to buy with all this invisible money?
Freedom. The source material is unequivocal about this conclusion. Real wealth is not luxury goods. Real wealth is having absolute control over your time.
Time, the ultimate luxury.
It is the ability to wake up every single morning and say, I can do whatever I want today. The ability to choose your own life, to step away from a toxic job without panicking, to handle a sudden medical emergency without going into debt, or to retire when you want to rather than when you have to. That autonomy is the ultimate financial goal.
So the invisible wealth buys the invisible luxury of time. But to achieve that ultimate goal of freedom, to get to that point where you wake up and completely own your day, you have to survive the unpredictable nature of reality over a very long period.
You do.
We have to figure out how to navigate the unknown.
Because the future is, by definition, utterly unpredictable. I mean, every single financial plan, no matter how carefully crafted by experts, will eventually meet aggressive uncertainty.
It's inevitable.
There will be global recessions, pandemics, unexpected medical bills, corporate downsizings, and localized disasters. You have to expect massive surprises instead of fearing them.
Okay, but how?
The specific mechanism you use to survive those surprises is leaving a very wide margin for error in your life.
So we're talking about robust emergency funds, wide diversification across asset classes, and having multiple backup plans for your income.
Exactly. A margin of error is really the only logical way to safely navigate a world driven by probabilities, not certainties.
Okay, but pushback here, doesn't hoarding a massive amount of cash in an emergency fund, where it might be earning almost zero interest and losing purchasing power to inflation, doesn't that essentially mean you're operating out of financial fear?
I get that a lot.
Isn't it just waiting for the sky to fall instead of, optimizing your capital?
Well, it is incredibly easy to view it that way, especially during a roaring bull market when it feels like everyone around you is making easy money.
Right.
But it isn't fear, it is the ultimate wisdom. If you require your investment portfolio to perform perfectly just to survive your daily life, you are eventually going to go bankrupt when a surprise hits.
Because perfection is impossible.
Exactly. A margin of error lets you endure a prolonged string of bad luck, so you can actually stick around long enough for the good luck and the compounding to arrive.
Ah, you are paying a premium to buy staying power.
Yes. And this ties directly into the psychological concept that absolutely nothing is free. Every single reward in life has a price attached to it.
Right.
The price of a new car is obvious. It's a dollar amount on a sticker. But the price of long-term investing, the true cost of building immense wealth, is completely invisible.
What's the price?
The price is extreme volatility, pervasive fear, profound doubt, prolonged uncertainty, and occasional regret.
That's a heavy price.
It is.
Yeah.
And you have to be willing to pay that emotional price. The reason most people quit before receiving the massive reward of compounding is because they simply refuse to pay the emotional toll of market volatility.
They panic.
They view a market drop as a fine for doing something wrong, rather than just the normal fee of admission to get the long-term gains. They want the returns for free.
But it just doesn't work that way. The fee is mandatory.
And
another chaotic element of the future is that you are going to change. The person you are today is fundamentally not the person you are going to be in 10 or 20 years.
So true.
The rigid financial goals you have at age 25 are probably not going to be your goals at age 45. So flexibility is crucial for long-term success. You cannot lock yourself into a rigid, highly leveraged life plan that assumes your personal desires and values will remain perfectly static.
Right, because you will change and the world will change.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, you don't need to be perfect to succeed anyway. This introduces a mathematical reality the source refers to as tails win.
Tails win.
Yeah. In business, in venture capital, and in investing, a few extraordinary winners create the vast majority of all wealth. This is the long-tail distribution model.
Oh, like the 80-20 rule, but even more extreme.
Basically, imagine you make 10 different investments. In a normal long-tail scenario, 5 of those might go to 0. 3 might tread water and do okay, but 2 of them might go up 10,000%. Those 2 massive tails pay for all the losses and build your entire net worth. You can be wrong half the time and still make an absolute fortune as long as you survive your mistakes and let your big winners run.
So you have to focus on long-term probability, not short-term perfection on every single decision.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean? We've talked about invisible forces, compounding, the illusion of status, and surviving the unpredictable using margins of error and long-tail math. How do we synthesize all of this for the listener?
The synthesis is that you must immediately stop comparing your financial journey to anyone else's.
Hard to do, but necessary.
It is. Your coworker, your neighbor, the day trader you see on social media. They are playing a completely different game than you are. They have entirely different goals, different risk tolerances, and different time horizons.
Right.
If you are a long-term investor trying to secure your retirement and you take cues from a day trader trying to make a quick buck by Friday, you will destroy your wealth.
You're trying to win the wrong game.
Playing their game will only lead you to ruin. You have to build a customized plan that matches the realities of your own life.
Which brings us to it. We have finally arrived at the biggest twist of this entire deep dive.
The big reveal.
After looking at all of this soft material, parsing all the historical data, and breaking down the psychology, the ultimate takeaway is that having good, consistent financial habits will beat a high financial IQ almost every single time.
It really is true. Behavior is the great equalizer. You do not need to be a Wall Street genius or an economic prodigy to secure your future.
You just need to master your own impulses.
Right. This entire roadmap we've unpacked today isn't actually about getting rich.
It's about becoming financially unbreakable.
Yes.
It's about building a psychological and structural foundation so incredibly strong that the unpredictable chaos of the world simply cannot shake you out of the game.
Because in the end, having money doesn't change who you are. It merely reveals who you are.
That's deep.
It amplifies your core behaviors, your underlying fears, and your truest values. Money reveals who you are. That is an incredibly powerful lens to view your own life through. We started this conversation by looking at a broken paradox: why the moderate earner can somehow outbuild the exceptionally high earner over a lifetime.
And we found the answer.
It turns out the answer was hiding in plain sight the entire time. It's all about what we choose to value behind closed doors, away from the eyes of society.
Exactly.
So we want to leave you with one final thought to mull over today as you look at your own financial roadmap. If true wealth is ultimately what you don't see, take a moment today to ask yourself, what invisible assets are you building right now that will give your future self the ultimate luxury of time, even if no one else ever notices?
I love that.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.